I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, opponents of a community plan for Barrio Logan are a step closer to taking their fight to San Diego voters.
I'm Peggy Pico. Also ahead, a new state law aims to speed up the adoption process, how it could help hard-to-place foster kids in San Diego. Plus, slow medicine meets palliative care, how this new approach to caring for seniors works in and out of the hospital.
And we'll show you how pedal power is empowering refugees in San Diego. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. 5 years of meetings and debate led to a city council-approved community plan for Barrio Logan, but now it could be put in the hands of San Diego voters. KPBS Metro reporter Sandy Dirk says the maritime industry has collected enough signatures to force a citywide vote.
The contentious battle for the rezoning of Barrio Logan isn't over, even after the city council approved a new community plan. The maritime industry, which had worked with the city and residents, say the final deal could threaten the shipbuilding industry and cost thousands of jobs. So they've been out collecting signatures to force a referendum. They say already more than enough people have signed, and they expect to deliver over 50,000 John Hancocks by the November 1st deadline. If around 34,000 of those signatures are valid, the city council will have two options: to rescind the plan or put it on a citywide ballot in early June. Community activists who fought for the plan say it was a compromise that protected residents, and they say maritime interests are vastly exaggerating its impact on the shipbuilding industry. They claim that the industry, which is paying for the referendum campaign, has misled people to get the required number of signatures. Sandy Dirk, KPBS News.
Jury selection began today in the trial of Richard Tewitt, accused of killing a 12-year-old Escondido girl back in 1998. Tewitt is charged with voluntary manslaughter in the death of Stephanie Crow. Prosecutors say she was attacked because she resembled a girl Tewitt was obsessed with. Well, commuter trains in the San Francisco Bay Area are up and running again this evening. BART officials and union workers reached a tentative deal ending a second four-day strike. BART has not released details of the deal, but they say it's a compromise and more than they wanted to pay. And immigration reform lags as it lags in the U.S. Congress. Mexico is working on a comprehensive plan for dealing with its immigration problem. KPBS Fronteras desk reporter Joe Replogo is here to talk about it. So Mexico is holding a series of public forums to collect input on a new immigration policy. Jill, you just got back from one of the conferences, right?
Yeah, first forum was held in Tijuana today, and this is pretty interesting. This is the first time Mexico has ever done this. They're creating a new national immigration policy that reflects big changes in migration that Mexico has experienced in recent years. And
what are some of those changes?
Well, we think of Mexico typically as being a place that sends immigrants mostly to the U.S., right? But it's actually has a much more complex role. It's a major transit country for migrants from Central America and elsewhere, from Africa, from all over, headed to the U.S. Also, in recent years, Mexico has begun to receive hundreds of thousands of its citizens deported from the U.S. Along with their American-born children, there are thousands of American-born children now living in Mexico with those deported parents.
And what were some of the challenges and suggestions you heard at the forum?
Well, some people think Mexico needs to do a much better job of protecting those Central American immigrants, especially from Central America and elsewhere, crossing through the country. They often get preyed on by violent traffickers and corrupt law enforcement officials. There's also a huge problem of these children, many who have been separated from their parents because of immigration policies. You know, some are living in the U.S. with other families. And then there's all these American-born children who are now living in Mexico with their deported parents. And so the question is, you know, how to reintegrate those families back into Mexican society so that they don't become a drain on public resources, especially in border cities like Tijuana, and so they don't become easy recruits for organized crime.
And of course, there are, as you mentioned, more forums to come. KPBS Fronteras reporter Joe Replogo. About 400 children a year are adopted in San Diego County, but thousands more remain in foster care. Peggy Pico explains how a new bill could help hard to place kids find permanent homes.
Governor Brown recently signed a bill into law that could reduce some of the barriers to would-be parents that they face in trying to adopt. Here with more on how the law will affect the county's 3,100 kids in foster care is Margot Fudge, adoption manager for San Diego County Department of Child Welfare Services. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Margot, what's the current process and how long does it take for parents who want to adopt in San Diego County?
So the process can vary in length. Some of it is dependent on the applicant themselves, how quickly they respond to our request for information and setting up interviews. But in San Diego County, you must first become a foster parent in order to adopt. And so they have to go through the foster care licensing process, have the home inspection, attend a prescribed number of trainings before we begin doing the applicant portion of their home study, which is generally the most time-consuming portion, where we're going out multiple times to meet with the family, conducting very thorough assessments and interviews, looking at financial, background. It's a very thorough assessment. And so that process can take up to a year to complete all the necessary components.
And that's before the child is actually in their care.
So sometimes if you get your foster care license first, which is required, you could have a placement of a foster child placed in your home and then ultimately choose to adopt that child down the road. So that process could be happening simultaneously.
I see. What are some of the barriers facing families who want to adopt here?
Well, some of the barriers are the sheer amount of time that it takes for us to complete the process. In addition, we are in sort of a unique situation right now, which is great for kids, but there are very few kids that are waiting to be adopted. We have probably 35 at any given time that need an adoptive placement. In years past, we had more children than we had families. And so right now we're fortunate to have more families than children, but we do still have 35 that need placement.
35, because some of the foster care kids aren't eligible for adoption, correct?
Correct.
I see. How would this new law that Governor Brown signed into law, how would it help families who want to adopt?
So the law will help people that have a relationship with a child and have maybe been through our process before. So the way I look at it, there are families that have had a child in their home for at least 6 months, relatives or non-relative extended family members that have a prior significant relationship with a child in foster care, people that have maybe gone through the guardianship assessment process, or people that have adopted in the past 2 years. Those people will all now be eligible for this abbreviated assessment, which can cut the time, really. We think it may cut it in half in terms of how long it'll take us to complete their home study.
Tell us a little bit about the impact that delays in adoption, let's say a year or two, have on the child and also the foster family.
So children that have been waiting in foster care for a forever family have experienced a great deal of trauma, and that trauma comes out in a number of different ways in their ability to attach to people that come into their life, their behavior, their schooling. And so every time a child has another loss where that finalization of that adoption doesn't take place, it's more trauma added on to what they've already experienced. And so we know how critical it is that that adoption finalizes as quickly as possible for that child. And then for the families that are waiting to adopt, the emotions are high for adoptions, and people are generally pretty anxious to have that finalization take place. They want that child to be part of their family. And so anything we can do to decrease the time it takes is really a win-win for everybody.
What are some of the other changes in the adoption process that could be done to sort of improve the situation here in the county besides this quicker review?
So our County Board of Supervisors has been very invested in the adoptions process, and they recently had the foresight to have us come up with a number of efficiencies that they think are important, and we absolutely agree. So we're looking at a number of key areas around customer service, some technology, and quality assurance. And so some of the things that we're going to be looking at is revamping the technology that we use to do matching of children with families, how we upload documents, and really a whole new system that we think will streamline some of the paper-based process that we've done previously. We also recently obtained tablets for our workers to go out to homes and be more remote and be able to take notes and upload information really in real time instead of having to come back to their office and do it at their desk.
Do you need more people? Do you need more boots on the ground?
Well, we think that we can do what we need to do, especially with this new AB 848 and then some of the other measures. We can do it with the staff we have, because if we're able to do the efficiencies that we think, there will be less work for people. It will eliminate some of the duplication and redundancy.
All right. tonight. Margot Fudge with San Diego County Child Welfare Services. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
The partial government shutdown may be over, but people will still be feeling the effects right into tax season. The IRS says it will delay the start of next year's filing season to give programmers time to update the agency's computers. It means early filers will have to wait a little longer for their refunds. No change in the due date for procrastinators, though. Your return is still due on April 15th. White House says a tech surge is underway to fix problems with the federal health care website, and they're getting support from experts at top companies in Silicon Valley. President Obama is calling on his longtime economic advisor Jeffrey Zients to oversee the work. Press Secretary Jay Carney says the White House won't engage in Monday morning quarterbacking over the technical glitches with healthcare.gov.
That's what we're focused on. We're focused on the real Americans out there who have a high interest in and demand for the product that the marketplace is providing. And it's on us, the fact that the website has not functioned as effectively as it should. It is also the reason why we have made clear that there are other avenues available to Americans with this deep interest in finding affordable health insurance to shop for that insurance and to sign up for and apply for that insurance.
White House rolled out a public service announcement today listing ways to sign up for coverage besides going to healthcare.gov. Another sign of improvement in California's economy tonight. Foreclosure activity dropped in the last quarter. The number of default notices was down nearly 60% from the same time last year. Analysts say rising prices mean fewer people are underwater on their mortgages. Look here, there may be a new booze ban on coaster trains. North County Transit District says it's considering a ban on all consumption and possession of alcohol on the trains. They're seeking public comment on the issue and will consider it at the end of November. Current rules allow alcohol on the trains before 9 in the evening. The City of Vista is considering a proposal to ban electronic cigarettes wherever smoking is prohibited. E-cigarettes do not produce tobacco fumes, but city officials say they want to avoid confusion and treat real and e-cigarettes the same. A part of Scripps Health is getting a $29 million grant from the National Institutes of Health. The money will fund 5 more years of research by the Scripps Transitional Science Institute in La Jolla. It studies how advancements in genetics coupled with wireless technology could make healthcare more personalized, affordable, and effective. Dr. Eric Topol with the group says the small digital devices we already carry could revolutionize patient care. He actually used an iPhone attachment to diagnose a fellow passenger's heart attack mid-flight. The plane made an emergency stop and the passenger lived.
We are very excited about the kinds of things that we can do to continue that innovative spirit and transform medicine's future.
The grant will let Scripps continue ongoing research, including a project where scientists are sequencing the genes from people over 80 to find out what keeps them healthy into old age. With a growing number of seniors, more hospitals are using a new approach to care for them. Peggy Pico explains how slow medicine works.
60 million Americans, or 19% of the population, are age 60 or older. By the year 2050, the number of seniors in the U.S. is expected to make up 26% of the population. Joining me to talk about slow medicine, a new approach to caring for the aging family members in and out of the hospital, are geriatric and family practice doctor Dennis McCullough and Helen McNeil, Executive Director of Cal State University Institute for Palliative Care at Cal State San Marcos. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. McCullough, what is slow medicine exactly?
Slow medicine is a philosophy and a set of practices for approaching your life as you age, and particularly the relationship that you have with health problems when they come along. It was developed by older people in concert with me and some other healthcare partners that I had, and I think it's a plan coming out of the community, out of older people's thinking about care, not clever people within the healthcare industry thinking about how older people should be cared for in their ideas.
We'll get some details on that. But Helen, there's a connection between the slow medicine and palliative care. Tell us about that.
So palliative care, and most people don't know this, but palliative care is about care for people with a serious or chronic illness that is centered on the needs of the person and focused on their quality of life. And so slow medicine and palliative care share a focus on the individual, an engagement of the family as also part of that care circle, and also on the whole person. So the only difference is that in palliative care, it's for people who have a serious or chronic illness, regardless of their age. Slow medicine really focuses on the needs of elders. But so there's a lot in common, and there's a really easy transition from one to the other.
When you hear palliative care, you think of, this is a last alternative. Nothing else can happen. This is just, sort of ushering them to the other side. How would you like to see that definition change?
Well, that isn't the definition of palliative care.
It's a perception, I should say. Absolutely.
It is. It's a perception. But palliative care is appropriate from the point of diagnosis with a serious or chronic illness all the way, yes, through death and the bereavement afterwards. And it's appropriate for any age or any serious or chronic illness. It's not the same as hospice.
Okay. And Dr. McCullough, how does the slow medicine approach change how people might make medical decisions?
What it does is it combines an understanding coming from gerontology, which is the broader study of how older people are in the world, the psychology, sociology, family relationships, economics, and it brings it into the area of geriatrics, which is the study of medical problems of older people. So if you look at how older people operate best, they need more time to make good decisions. They oftentimes need what's now being called guided autonomy. That is to say, as you're older, you can't always see every aspect of an issue, and so it's nice to have people you trust, whether they're your family or dear friends, close to you, helping you to understand where you are.
And there's some practical applications, right? Like maybe you may not do mammograms every single year, right? Things like that, or tests that you're not going to treat.
Yeah. There are things like specific issues like that, but the broader one is that, for instance, you should never go alone to a doctor's appointment. You should have another person in the room with you to help understand exactly what the doctor is trying to say, and then carry on that discussion afterwards when you leave. So everything becomes clearer when you're not in it alone. And there's that's balance between being really independent and being what I call interdependent with our friends and family.
I see. And Helen, the majority of large hospitals in the U.S. have palliative care. How do you think it's changing the cost and the quality of medical care?
The research is showing that, number one, people live longer when they get palliative care in conjunction with their curative treatment. Number two, they are more satisfied with their care, and that's an important measure of quality. And number three, that along with all of this, it's actually costing the healthcare system less.
And this has to be our last question, because Dr. McCullough, in a bigger context, how do you see this slow medicine and palliative care working together with our changing healthcare system?
It's going to save it financially. It's that simple. If we can't address the issues of the cost and appropriateness of care for older people, guiding them more safely into the harbors that they want to be in, then we're going to never solve the healthcare crisis.
All right. Thank you very much to both of you for this update. I want to let people know that there's free public lectures this week. They start tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Cal State University San Marcos, and also on Thursday evening at 6 at Scripps Memorial Hospital in La Jolla. Reservations are required. For links and more information, go to our website, kpbs.org.
County supervisors voted to make the licensing process easier for farmers markets. Current rules require markets and vendors to get separate licenses, but Supervisor Diane Jacobs says an all-encompassing license would be more simple. The county, the Sheriff's Department, and Farm Bureau have been tasked with creating the new process. Healthy cooking and eating is a big part of the county's Live Well San Diego Education Initiative. It's a 10-year plan to improve the health and safety of the county's more than 3 million people. Now in its third year, it's evolved from being a way to promote healthy living to more of a community partnership, all focused on the same goal.
And it's public, private, cities, faith-based, businesses. It's really about everyone coming together to embrace a healthier community here in the county of San Diego.
Like much of the nation, San Diego is facing a tidal wave of chronic diseases such as diabetes. That's why Live Well San Diego is designed to educate all county residents by promoting depression screenings, blood pressure checks, and exercise.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next news hour, the latest jobs report delayed for weeks by the government shutdown. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
Secondhand bikes are providing a lifeline to refugees settling in San Diego, giving them a low-cost way to get to work and school. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy introduces us to a girl from Uganda whose newly refurbished bike is empowering her to get ahead.
Edith Okello enjoys riding her bike home from Crawford High School in City Heights. Her long braided hair blows in the breeze as she glides down Orange Avenue. But the 15-year-old's journey hasn't always been this carefree.
I was born in Sudan, but I'm from Uganda.
Okello spent the first 10 years of her life in the Kakuma refugee camp in the Horn of Africa. Kakuma means nowhere in the native language of Swahili. She lived among 110,000 others who had fled wars in neighboring countries. Okello says conditions were harsh.
We didn't have a lot of clean water. We had to walk a really long distance to get clean water, which wouldn't even last us 2 days.
Having a bicycle to get around wasn't even a dream for her back then.
And for food, the UN used to give us food, but it wasn't enough.
Okello recalls sleeping on the ground.
Like about 5 people in a room, shared one blanket.
When she wasn't working or waiting in line for food or water, she attended school.
When we get in trouble, we used to get punished by getting beat. Sometimes they'll put pencils between our fingers or hit our knuckles with the rulers or smack our butts with sticks.
Okello's story isn't unique. Many of the 3,500 other refugees who relocate to San Diego County every year from around the world share a similar background. Most have suffered greatly before moving here. The average stay in a refugee camp is 17 years.
Edith Okello and her family moved in 2008 from the Kakuma camp to here in City Heights. It's known as San Diego's hub for refugee resettlement.
I'm very grateful I have a bed, I have enough food to eat, and I have a family who has time to spend with me.
Okello also has a new bike to help her travel the 6 miles to school and back, thanks to the San Diego International Rescue Committee's refurbished bike program. The IRC collects donated bikes from the community, fixes them up, and gives them to refugees like Okello.
What I do is I repair the bikes, make them safe and suitable so the refugees are able to use them. Put it on.
Martin Vorneveld is an IRC bike repair volunteer.
Most bikes have either a flat tire or the brakes aren't working or the gears aren't working or you just need a lube job, anything like that.
When a batch of bikes is ready, IRC Transportation Coordinator Hong Tran teaches refugees about bike safety and how to ride a bike before giving them a set of wheels.
Which lane would you choose if you needed to go left?
The left side.
This one? Right.
On this day, Tran is teaching Edith Okello and 4 other students from Crawford High School, where nearly a third of students are refugees.
So whenever you turn, you want to make sure you turn next to the curb.
Tran has distributed more than 100 bikes since the program began 3 years ago. She says buying a car or taking public transportation is often beyond the financial means of newly arrived refugees.
Because a lot of them come here and they want to live a life of self-sufficiency and independence, and the bicycle really provides is a great way for them to start that.
For Edith Okello, who has already learned English and adapted to a dramatically new culture in 5 short years, having a bike is one less obstacle. She no longer has to walk to school at 5:45 in the morning.
It helps me get up later than usual when the sun is up, so I don't have to go in the dark and be scared.
Okello says she doesn't regret having lived in a refugee camp because she says coming from a place called nowhere with almost nothing has inspired her to work hard.
The camp helped me become a strong person from the inside and the outside, because when I came here, I realized that there was more to me than I ever knew.
She's a track star at Crawford and plays varsity basketball. She's hoping to follow in her sister's footsteps and attend UC Berkeley.
I'm hoping to become a forensic anthropologist and just travel around the world.
But for now, she says she'll stick to traveling around San Diego on her newly refurbished bicycle. Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
Slightly cooler, but a nice forecast still ahead for the rest of the week. Partly cloudy once the morning overcast clears along the coast, near 70 over the next couple of days. More dense fog expected for the inland valley areas tomorrow morning. Then temperatures by the afternoon in the 70s with some mix of sun and clouds. The mountains will see plenty of sunshine, temperatures there in the low 70s. The desert, sunshine with temperatures near 90. You can find tonight's stories and download the KPBS app, all on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.